What is everybody? The underscore talent himself, the gaming messiah, the Archangel, back with another discussion video, with today's topic being the new Mortal Kombat movie. This isn't a review of the movie, and in terms of spoilers, the only character I'm going to be talking about in this video is Cole and everything involving his background. If you deem that to be spoiler material, this is your spoiler warning. As well, if you want to, catch me gaming and having these, kind of discussions live on Twitch, follow the Biblical Beast on Twitch, link in the description box below as well as on the screen. So Mortal Kombat, the movie. I don't. What should we call this? If we just call it Mortal Kombat, there's more than one movie, but I guess since most people probably didn't even see those original ones, other than people who are my age, I did enjoy the movie for what it was. This movie has a lot of mixed reviews. Everyone from critics to fans are kind of split down the middle on what they think of the movie overall. And again, this isn't a review. I'm not going to review. Just know that I did think it was a decent movie because for what it was. I wasn't expecting a fighting movie to have Oscar level acting, so my expectations weren't high in the acting department. I also wasn't expecting some kind of amazingly crazy good script. So my expectations story wise was also pretty low. I went to the movie expecting to watch a bunch of people fight each other, and then that's about it. And for that, I enjoyed it. But out of everything in the movie, the one thing that stood out to me the most was the main character, Cole. Cole's the center of attention when it comes to this movie, and as Vince McMahon always says, any reaction is a good reaction, whether it's cheers or boos. Cole right now is getting battered by the community. A lot of people don't like the character Cole. They think he was pretty terribly acted. They just don't like the character. Rightfully so, though. His character is boring. His character is uninteresting. His powers are kind of whack. It's like, great value version of Black Panther's armor. So there's that. And his acting, again, was meh. It wasn't terrible, but, it left a lot to be desired. And again, I didn't watch the movie expecting good acting. So therefore, I don't hate Cole because his acting was bad. The character's just boring for me. But I also understand why other people don't like the character. He was one of the low points of the movie, which is massive since he is the main character. And when it comes to being the main character in this movie, that's also what's going to lead to people disliking the character, because for the longest time, especially if you don't play the games, the recent games, Liu Kang was the main character. You got to the older movie, the one that everyone loves. Liu Kang was the star of the show, and for the games, Liu Kang was kind of the center of attention. Even with the most recent game, with him becoming Fire God Liu Kang, he was always the center of attention. But, you think about Mortal Kombat 10, it kind of did shift towards more, passing of a torch kind of thing. We'll get to that later. And for the movie, you would think Liu Kang would still be in some way center of attention, whereas he's kind of like the lowest denominator of a support character in the movie. Which, again, it's not a review, but I do think Liu Kang in the movie was actually pretty good. I think he was well acted. I think his voice acting his story, his writing was good. His connection with Kung Lao was good. There's not a lot to say bad about Liu Kang in the movie, other than the fact that, again, he was basically a cheerleader in the sense that he's just there. Not cheerleader as in he's cheering for Cole, but he's just his presence. You go to like the NFL game, you watch football, you don't really pay attention to the fact that there's cheerleaders even there. You get what I'm saying? Moving on, that was a ramble. Now, even though the community hates Cole, I saw something in him that most didn't until I mentioned it on Twitter and Facebook. What that is Cole is basically a Takeda, I'm sorry, but a failed rewrite. They rewrote Takeda essentially, but didn't do a good job at it. Takeda, for those that don't know who he is, which is the character I'm using in the background for this video, is the son of Kenshi and a student of Scorpion. He is a member of the Shiryu. Takeda was a new character in Mortal Kombat 10, which is basically Mortal Kombat passing of the torch. The point of the game was to mostly introduce the next generation of fighters like Kung Jin, Cassie, Jackie, and Takeda. If you play Mortal Kombat 11, notice only 2 of those 4 characters made a return. Cassie, liked by fans, Jackie, who gets mixed opinions. But Takeda and Kung Jin are generally unliked, which is unfortunate. I like both. Yes, Kung Jin's kind of, not great, but he's not bad either. Takeda was one who stood out to me out of all 4 of them. I especially like Takeda. His lore in the comics is great, especially his father's son-like bond with Hanzo and his rivalry with Fox. So why am I talking about Takeda with Cole? Well, if you think about Cole's background and Takeda's bond with Hanzo, WB and the writers of the movie could have just combined the 2 backstories into one character and used Takeda for the movie instead of creating Cole. For backstory on Cole, for those that don't care to watch the movie, Cole is a descendant of Hanzo, Scorpion. For those who don't know, that Scorpion's real name is Hanzo. Raiden hid Scorpion's last surviving child, a daughter, who continued the bloodline of who continued the Hasashi bloodline, Scorpion's bloodline. In Lord Takeda, his mother wasn't really nobody important. She was killed by the Black Dragons. That's it. That's all they care to give when it comes to her character, because she just needs to exist to have Takeda have a mom. That's it. And the reason for Takeda to hate his father, because he was involved in dealing with the Black Dragons. Anyways, we're not going to go into like a whole backstory on Takeda and Kenshi, things like that. Just know that his mom is kind of irrelevant in the comics and the Mortal Kombat lore in general. To make Takeda and Cole better characters, fusing them would have made a lot of sense. Make Takeda's mother, whom again is generally irrelevant, the great-great-granddaughter of Hanzo. And since Cole is already a thing now, and it's clear they are going to keep him as the main character for a trilogy of movies, they could still introduce Takeda in the movies with this backstory. Say him and Cole have the same mother, but different fathers. In the game and comics, Takeda's father is Kenshi. If you don't know who Kenshi is, again, if you want me to do a video on Kenshi, I will. Otherwise, just know that it's Takeda's father. He's a fighter. Mediocre character. Fans are kind of mixed on him. He's pretty strong in the game, though, to be honest. Anyways, this makes for just better storytelling. And having Cole and Takeda, be a duo in the movies will likely save Cole's character and make fans more interested in him and Takeda in general. As both will get more lore, and again, you have another video game character appearing in the movies. This could also allow the studios to get Fox in the movies as well. Fox, again, someone who I mentioned before, is a rival to Takeda. He hated how much him and Hanzo were together. He hated how much he was favoritized by Hanzo. Again, Hanzo and Takeda have a very father-son like bond, and when it came to the Shiryu in their training, all you was seeing in comics is how much Fox just hated. He was just jealous, envious of how much attention Takeda was getting from Hanzo. So a rivalry was created, and Fox became kind of a villain. So it would be cool to have that kind of connection. We have Takeda and Cole, two brothers with different fathers, or maybe just in general, Kenshi didn't know he had a second son, whatever. But then there's this other character who's persistent throughout the next movies. Not just someone who pops up once and then dies, but someone who's persistent throughout the next two movies, because it's going to be a trilogy. They've already confirmed it's going to be a trilogy. And to me, one of the best things about a trilogy, or of any movie franchise, is that there's a villain who's present throughout the entirety of the franchise, not someone who just is there and then dies. And here you can kind of say Shang Tsung is that person. But I feel like another character, someone who's not Shang Tsung, someone who's getting involved in combat on an often basis, like Fox, will be good for the franchise. Anyways, Cole, as he is right now, is kind of another Rey from Star Wars, a character who is just randomly powerful solely because of their bloodline. Rey being someone with the blood of Palpatine coursing through her, Cole has Scorpion's blood coursing through him. So by default, he's just super powerful like Rey, and not interesting, boring, and we'd rather connect with new. In the end, this will likely not happen, but as someone that does like the character Takeda and instantly saw Cole as basically a rewrite of Takeda, I love to see Takeda return to some form and get that bloodline through his mother, whom again has no real lore. So they could retroactively make her a descendant of Scorpion. They could say she had twins, one being Cole and the other being Takeda. They could say Kenshi never knew about Cole, regardless of him being a twin or a son of Takeda's mother from a different father. Just something that went through. This is just something that went through my head, and I just feel like it would just make a lot of sense. And I had a discussion with in a group of my men on Facebook, and not everyone agreed with me. I was talking about with some friends, and I kind of just feel like there's a general agreement on this idea of Cole and Takeda being twins or brothers, or just in general, just have Takeda and Cole be fused into one character, where it's like the name Takeda becomes what Cole calls himself after training with the Shiryu and training with Scorpion over time, and decided that that's what he wants to be known as over the name Cole, which in general, a shit name. What do you guys think of Cole? Or this discussion in general, on Takeda and Cole? Leave any thoughts you have in the comments below. With all that said, that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Be safe. Be kind to one another. I'll catch
Goodbye. Mwah. And good night.